In the vast, sunburnt landscapes of the Australian outback, one of the most haunting and heartbreaking cases of early 20th century Australia unfolded, the story of Grace Macdonald, the so-called Outback Cinderella. This story isn't the fairy tale you might imagine. Instead, it's a tragic case of greed, cruelty, and justice that shook the small town of Longreach, Queensland in 1903. Welcome to Outback Oddities. If you're fascinated by strange tales and mysteries, you're in the right place. From eerie ghost stories and unsolved mysteries to bizarre events and curious legends, we dive deep into the most intriguing and mysterious tales that Australia has to offer. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey through the weird and wonderful world of the Australian outback. Don't forget to like and share if you enjoy our content. There's always something odd to discover. At the heart of this dark tale was a young girl named Grace Macdonald, just 14 years old, who was found badly beaten and starved to death. The circumstances surrounding her murder revealed a sinister plot, one that may have been driven by the promise of an inheritance. So settle in, let's get started. Grace was the daughter of Angus Macdonald and his first wife, whose identity is not well documented. It appears that they separated, and Grace lived with her mother in Victoria. When her mother died, she was sent to live with her aunt. Reports suggest that before her father's remarriage, Angus was fond of his daughter. However, everything changed when he married Floris Agnes Cowell, a trained nurse with 3 years of hospital experience. Remember that. At the age of 12, Grace's life took a dramatic turn. Her father arranged to collect her from Victoria and bring her to Brisbane, a journey of over 1,600 kilometres, which would have taken days, if not weeks, in 1903. She briefly attended school in Brisbane before the family moved again, this time to Longreach, another grueling 1,200-kilometre trek into the heart of Queensland. What should have been a fresh start became a waking nightmare. Angus Macdonald was a squatter, and the family settled on Urata Station, a remote property over 20 kilometres outside Longreach. Longreach itself was still a relatively new settlement at the time. Officially gazetted in 1887, the town had grown with the arrival of the railway in 1892. By the time the Macdonalds arrived in 1903, it was a small but developing community. The world-famous Australian airline Qantas was founded in Longreach in 1920 and is still Australia's main airline today. The Qantas Founders Museum brings many tourists. As of 2021, the population was just over 3,000. The scene has been set in Longreach. It's a small and remote place, and would have been more so back then. In Australia, a station refers to a large land holding primarily used for raising livestock, like cattle or sheep, essentially equivalent to a ranch in North America. Urata Station has since been renamed at least once, and I've been unable to determine how large the station was at the time, but we can safely assume it was a very large property. Life at Urata Station was brutal for Grace. She was immediately forced into hard labour, tending to Florence's 2 young children, aged 2 and 3, while also performing grueling chores. Witnesses later described seeing her emaciated and bruised, dressed in rags, and visibly frightened. A mailman recalled seeing her in the dead of winter, with no boots, stockings, or hat, shivering, while he himself was wrapped in a thick coat and rug. Another man reported seeing her clothed only in a bran sack, mistaking her for a servant or even a slave. These chilling accounts painted a harrowing picture of her suffering. Grace's abuse culminated in her tragic death on October 31, 1903, just 7 months after she was taken from the care of her aunt. Dr. Hewer, the medical officer in Longreach, conducted the post-mortem, revealing horrifying details. Grace's body was covered in deep sores, some several inches wide. Her skin was torn away, her ribs had been broken weeks before, and her right wrist was disfigured to the point where the bones had become completely eroded. She weighed only 25 kilograms, at least 15 to 20 kilograms less than a healthy girl her age. One of the most disturbing aspects of the case was the potential motive behind Grace's suffering. The Crown argued that money was at the heart of this crime. Grace's late mother had left £2,000 to her, a substantial sum at the time, and Angus MacDonald was the sole trustee of these funds. It seemed likely that he and Florence sought to ensure that Grace never lived to claim her inheritance. Angus MacDonald's own testimony was shocking. He admitted to beating Grace, but attempted to justify it by labeling her a liar and a thief. He coldly recounted withholding food from her for days as punishment. He even admitted that he had planned to abandon her with no financial support. However, other witnesses described Grace as hardworking and well-behaved before her health deteriorated due to the abuse she suffered. The case captivated the nation, and public outrage was immense. Angus and Florence MacDonald were swiftly arrested and charged with Grace's murder. Their trial was held in Rockhampton in 1904, where witness testimonies and medical evidence painted a horrifying picture of prolonged torture. The jury found them guilty, and they were both sentenced to death. The judge condemned their actions in scathing terms, stating, "The picture of this helpless child attending to her own sores and binding up her decaying wrist, apparently to save the bones that were dropping away, is one that for pathos and horror is unparalleled in fiction." However, despite the severity of their crimes, both sentences were later commuted to life imprisonment. Florence MacDonald became the first woman in Queensland sentenced to life behind bars. Angus was sent to St Helena Island Prison off the coast of Brisbane, while Florence was incarcerated at the infamous Boggo Road jail. Yet their punishments were shockingly lenient. Both served significantly reduced sentences. Angus's exact time behind bars is unclear, while Florence was released after just 12 years in 1916. She changed her name upon release and is believed to be buried in an unmarked grave at Toowoomba Cemetery. Grace Macdonald's tragic fate became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities faced by a child in a time when protection was scarce. Her story lingers in the history of Longreach, a dark chapter in an otherwise quiet town. Though her life was brief and brutal, Grace is remembered as more than just a victim. Her story has resurfaced over the years, ensuring that the Outback Cinderella's suffering was not forgotten. Today, her tale serves as both a grim reminder of past injustices and a call to vigilance in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Grace is buried in the Longreach Cemetery, and locals say there are always fresh flowers on her grave, though no one knows who leaves them. I found myself deeply intrigued by the fate of Angus and Florence MacDonald after their release. Frustratingly, very little information is available. Did they return to Longreach, start new lives elsewhere? And what happened to their two surviving children? One author claimed to be writing a book with never-before-seen details, but as of March 2025, the supposed 2019 release date has long passed, leaving those lingering questions unanswered. What do you think about this case? Do you believe justice was truly served? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Outback Oddities. If you've enjoyed this story, please be sure to subscribe and follow us for more strange and mysterious stories. And if you're interested in more strange mysteries, check out this video for another chilling tale from Australia's past. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the oddities of the Outback.